All right, you've probably heard that Trump has floated tariffs replacing the income tax. I'll roll a Joe Rogan clip real quick.
This country can become rich with the proper use of tariffs.
Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure, but why not?
So when I first saw this, I thought it was a fascinating concept, and I was curious whether or not tariffs could actually replace personal income tax. So I'm checking it out right now. This is from the treasury.gov. This is income tax. This is all tax revenue that federal government gets, and it is a chunk of change, like $5 trillion in 2024. So if you go here, individual income tax accounts for 2.43 trillion. That is 49% of the tax revenue that we receive from the federal government. The federal government receives, I should say. Social Security tax is 1.71%, or trillion. That's 35%. Corporate income tax, 530 billion. And so I was curious, okay, we have $2.4 trillion in income tax. Now, that is actually levied off of, I think it's right here, it's like $20 trillion in income. That is what it's levied off of. So you're going to make, $2.4 trillion in income tax. So I was curious, like, how much do we import? And if we put a tariff on it, would we actually be able to raise $2.4 trillion? And to be honest, like, the shorter answer is no. Like, maybe we could reduce the amount of income tax we have, but to completely replace it, it's just like not possible. So this is a report this is for November. This has come from the census, from the government. Right here, this is actually goods, the total amount of imports that we have, January through November, and it's $2.9 trillion. So $2.9 trillion, but that's only 11 months, so I'm going to annualize it. I'm going to take 2.9 trillion divided by 11. I'm going to times it by 12. So we're going to have like $3.16 trillion from imports. So to be able to replace that $2.4 trillion of income tax, we would have to levy, like, put a tariff on, like 100% tariff almost, right? I mean, 2.4 divided by 3.16, 76% tariff, which is not going to happen. And even if it did, it would have like a huge impact on inflation. And inflation is just like a killer. Inflation has made it so interest rates have remained high, which has in turn made the housing market almost impossible for new homeowners to go and buy. I know that there's plenty of people that would love to move from their house, but they can't, because if they do, they're going to leave a mortgage that's small with like a 3% interest rate, and they're going to go into a more expensive home with a much higher interest rate, and it's going to be completely unaffordable. And so we can't have this mass inflation and expect rates to go down. If we have huge inflation, then rates are going to stay high. We got to get inflation to go a lot further down for interest rates to drop, which is what honestly the economy needs in a lot of ways, is to have the interest rates drop. It would make housing, at least, needs the interest rates to drop. So you can't necessarily replace all of income tax with these tariffs. So if we have $3.16 trillion in imports of goods, and we tariff it at 10%, then that's going to give us $316 billion. Now, obviously, a $316 billion decrease in individual income tax, it's not going to be something that just completely wipes out income tax, and we're not going to have it anymore. But it is a pretty good drop, right? So if we were able to go 316, and we're going to divide it by the $2.4 trillion, I think it's 2.417. Let's double check that. Oh, 2.43. 13% is going to be around 13%. 13% drop in our income tax. I mean, it's that I would be happy with. I'd be glad to have a 13% drop in my income tax. That would be a good thing, because honestly, tax is crazy. We're getting way overtaxed, in my opinion. The thing that could have the biggest impact on this is if we can drop government spending. That is going to be a bigger game changer than throwing tariffs on, at least in my opinion. So DOGE, obviously, it's the Department of Government Efficiency. It's by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. initially they were like, hey, we're going to do $2 trillion in federal budget cuts, which would be insane. Like if we could actually drop $2 trillion, if all things remain the same, like your Social Security cut, your income tax, all of those things, if all of those stayed the same, but we were able to drop $2 trillion in spending, that almost wipes out all of individual income tax. That they're kind of reeling back on that. Like Elon Musk says, they probably won't find $2 trillion, but he is optimistic that they could find $1 trillion in budget cuts. That alone would be huge, because you could drop $1 trillion. So 1 divided by 2.43, that's 41%. So if we could get rid of 41% of our income tax and we did not have that expense, that could be thousands of dollars in everybody's pocket. And I like that option a lot more than the tariff side. I am interested and I am good. Like I support them trying the tariff thing. It would be interesting to see how much of an impact it has on inflation though. Because if we are charging China and everybody else who imports goods in here 10% on everything that they import, then naturally the cost of those things are going to increase. And so that's going to make things more expensive. That being said, if we can cut government spending, that doesn't necessarily result in an increase in price in anything, right? Like we can cut that government spending, get rid of the fluff we have in the government and just useless and unnecessary spending. And we're going to have a much bigger drop in our spending, which means we don't need to have as much revenue. Now, we do need to climb ourselves out of a debt hole, so I guess there's that. But it would not result in the amount of inflation that tariffs would. But what are your guys' thoughts? What do you think would be the best route to go? Do you like tariffs? Are you skeptical of them? Do you think Doge can actually go in and cut government spending? I sure hope they can, because we are spending way too much as a federal government and it needs to be cut down. Hit me up in the comment section. I would be curious to hear your guys' thoughts. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. We'll catch you guys next time.